I want to thank you all for coming. My name is Sandy Golding, and I am the president of Beaches Watch. For those of you who may not be familiar with our organization, we are a nonpartisan, nonprofit civic organization here at the beach, and our membership consists of Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, and Jacksonville Beach citizens. And we host these meetings once a month with speakers on topics that are relevant to the beaches. We also have candidate forums, all in an effort to educate and engage citizens in the issues that are coming before our local elected officials. So we're glad to have you all here tonight. If you didn't pick one up, I hope you got an agenda when you came in. It has some information on here that we'd like for you to have so that you're aware of the things that are going on. Before we get started, let me just recognize some people we have here tonight. From Jacksonville Beach, we have City Councilman Bruce Thomason and former police chief. We also have Jacksonville Beach City Councilwoman Janelle Wilson. From Neptune Beach, we have Vice Mayor Scott Wiley. And we have City Councilman Roy Diamond. We have City Attorney Patrick Kurchowski. Where are you, Patrick? And we also have, last but not least, City Manager Andy Hyatt. Then we also have our district representative for the school board, Scott Shine. We have Senator Aaron Beans, legislative aide Austin Nicholas is here as well. I'd like to mention that his contact information on the back of the agenda is missing a C in his last name. Nicholas should be Nicklas, so please make note of that if you want to get in touch with him. Then we also have, from Congressman Rutherford's office, we have both of his district directors, Jackie Smith and Chris Miller. And have I missed anybody? Has anybody walked in that I didn't see? Okay, so very quickly, so we can get to our program for tonight, just want to remind everybody that we record these meetings. So if you know somebody who was not able to be here, we post the meetings, the videos on our website and on our Facebook page. Also, if you have not joined or if you'd like to renew your membership, please go see Eileen over here at the table. And our memberships are $15 for individual, $20 for family, and $5 for students. Also, we've got a lot of things coming up. August is going to be very busy. Beaches Watch is doing the candidate forum for the Atlantic Beach candidates. That's going to be next Thursday, August 10th at 7 o'clock at the Atlantic Beach Elementary School. Should be a great forum. It's a great opportunity to hear all the candidates speak so that you can make an informed decision before you vote. Also, there's several other things going on that we have on the agenda on August 3rd. There's which is tomorrow night, City Manager Candidate Meet and Greet from 5:30 to 7:30, so you can meet the candidates for City Manager. And then the Police Chief swearing in is going to be Monday, August 7th for the Atlantic Beach Police Chief. And then there's also a special meeting and a budget workshop on August 9th at 5 o'clock. And that's going to be in the Commission Chambers. Then there's a long list of meetings for Jacksonville Beach budget workshops, and so I encourage you guys to get the agenda, and if you live in Jacks Beach, plan to attend the budget workshops. It's very informative. It's good to know where your tax dollars are going. And then also Neptune Beach is having a budget workshop on the 21st. And then just want to let everybody know that our September meeting is the 6th. And it will be here in the community room. And the topic is going to be the opioid crisis at the beaches. So that's a very big topic right now and should be a really good, very informational meeting. So, are there any other quick announcements? Anything that I may have missed? Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce our speakers for tonight. From Atlantic Beach, we have Interim Police Chief Vic Walillo. We have Neptune Beach Police Chief Richard Pike. Chief Pat Dooley, and Congressman John Rutherford. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with Atlantic Beach Police Chief, and he's going to talk about July 4th, and then we're going to have Neptune Beach next. And then Jack's Beach, they're going to be talking about July 4th, what happened, what worked, what didn't work, and then we will move to Congressman Rutherford, and we'll give him an opportunity to speak. We're going to hold the questions until all of our speakers have had an opportunity to speak, and then we'll open the floor for questions. And I will just say, when we do open the floor for questions, I want to remind everyone that we'll probably have a lot of questions, so we'll want you to keep your questions short and concise. But to get started, we'll start with Atlantic Beach. Interim Police Chief Vic Willow.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by saying our most interesting customers on the July 4th holiday came north into our city from Jacksonville Beach and Neptune Beach. They weren't ours. So make sure you put that on. We had a very easy time, thank goodness. We usually do. Most of our problem came with pedestrian and bicycle traffic, mostly bicycle coming north out of First Street and Neptune Beach into our city. That causes some of a problem in Atlantic Beach or Atlantic Boulevard with that stoplight. We've been through the intersection on a weekend, you know what it looks like anyway. But imagine, groups of 10, 20, 30, 40 bicyclists riding through there. And unfortunately, if you've ever spent any time at the beach, skateboarders and bicyclists kind of forget that they have to abide by those traffic regulations too if they want to cross the street or cross the intersection. And those groups of people didn't stop, unfortunately. So the cars did the right thing. They stopped and yielded to those big groups coming through. And as they filtered into our city, there were a few places they stopped, a few house parties we had, nothing considerable, but larger house parties. So we managed that during the day with a few traffic officers out there. As we got into the evening, we saw our standard beach fill up about 8 o'clock. It started. Everybody going down the beach with their beach chairs to have a good time. Nothing out of the ordinary for us. And the standard, after the fireworks were over also, that group leaving the beach. Again, nothing considerable happened as far as pedestrian interaction with cars on anything north of Atlantic Boulevard into our city. So we had a really good weekend. We didn't see anything over those previous 2 days, the Saturday, Sunday, looking more unusual. I think like a busy weekend at the beach for us for a holiday weekend. So we were fortunate. Have a whole lot of interesting stories to tell you, but that's what we usually see. And I'm sure the other chiefs will agree too that thank goodness it was a Monday holiday, 4th of July, because if it's a weekend 4th, we know what happens to the beaches on a weekend 4th of July. We get double or triple folks coming out here to enjoy the beaches. So I guess we'll hold questions to the end. Chief, you ready to go?
Ready. Thank you, Sandy. July 4th at Neptune Beach starts right after the first of the year. We do. And if you've ever been to Neptune Beach on July 4th, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this year, I'm happy to report it was a fantastic celebration of our country's birthday in Neptune Beach this year. So we had made a lot of changes. Initially, we met with Jacksonville Sheriff's Office Special Events, Homeland Security, had them come out on scene. We walked the area. We walked the 1st and 2nd Street area, the beach area. We had some plans already. Already had our plan underway. We got some help and advice from them. And we came up with closing 1st Street completely to traffic this year. And last year I closed it for parking. We had people constantly cruising, plugging it up, safety issues. So just with the events around the world and the United States, we felt it was necessary to close 1st Street to all traffic. So we did that. We used water barrels and barricades throughout 1st Street at some point, actually, for a zigzag for anybody that needed to get through. The water barrels, and they won't stop a vehicle, but they will slow a vehicle down and alert the officers stationed at each intersection that something was going wrong. So we got a lot of positive feedback from that. It went real smooth. The crowd wasn't quite, being on a weekday, the crowd wasn't quite what we had for the last few 4th of July's being on the weekend, but it was still pretty intense. And but all in all, we had 2 arrests. We had one unfortunately for a nude male on the beach, swimming in the ocean, and then a DUI. And other than that, very few calls for service on the 4th of July, and it went real smooth. And we're fortunate that the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office supplied us with 20 police officers at no charge to the city this year. So we use those throughout our intersections, especially south. We created a hot zone south from Florida Boulevard, south of Jax Beach, and we had that nailed down pretty good. So if you've ever been down to First Street in Jackson and Neptune Beach, you'll know that's where the 2/3 of our people are south of Florida Boulevard. But I'm happy to report it went real smooth. I appreciate everybody's help, our city council, our city manager, patience with our residents. When we had First Street closed, we accommodated them with an officer at every intersection, getting to the residents or getting their guests in and out of there. And our beach was extremely crowded, like it is every July 4th. The lifeguards were hustling. They did a fantastic job. Police officers, everybody working there did a good job. We had a lot of positive feedback on it. So I'm happy to report that at about 8:30, our city tilts to the south, and they move into Jax Beach for the fireworks. Yeah, we made it. I think that covers it. Like I said, we've made some changes, and those changes will be in effect from this point on. And hopefully we'll improve every year, some input and as we learn. But this year, I think we had a safe environment. It was a fantastic celebration, and I want to thank everybody that helped out.
In Jacksonville Beach, obviously we had a lot of people, like we always do. We're estimating that our crowds, again, were fairly consistent with what they have been in years past, probably upwards of 90 to 100,000 people. We really start gearing up for the 4th of July on that Saturday, and because although 4th of July was on a Tuesday, we knew that there would be a very high likelihood that there would be a lot of people to take off Monday to give themselves a 4-day weekend, and that did come to happen. There were some special challenges that we had this year that we hadn't had in previous years because of the damage to the pier. We had to create a safety zone down on the beach, which would not allow, because they were going to shoot fireworks off from on the pier, which is much shorter than it was in previous years due to storm. We couldn't allow pedestrian traffic underneath the pier, so we actually had to close the beach, which was obviously an inconvenience to a lot of the people that are walking the beach or planning on looking at the fireworks from the beach. But we had opportunities for them to get up off the beach, and if they wanted to go north or south, they could do that through First Street. So we had to use actually even smaller shells this year because of the safety zone that had to be created. We couldn't shoot the normal shells that we do because we would have had to close several businesses along First Street, Castleton and some of the others. So obviously we had to bring the size of the display down to meet the requirements so that we wouldn't be closing any private businesses but still have a decent fireworks display. So we were able to do that. Our Parks and Rec people did that for us. Again, as we have in many years previous, we had JSO out there to help us with our traffic control, which is always a huge deal. It's not such a problem getting all those people out to the beach. It's a big challenge getting them off the beach when the fireworks are over. And JSO does a great job for us facilitating that and helping get those folks on either Butler Boulevard Bridge, Cross Beach Boulevard, or if they come north and they go down Atlantic Boulevard, across the bridge. We really had a pretty decent crowd, but we didn't have a whole lot of bad behavior. For the weekend, we ended up making about 34 arrests, which that's not too bad for us for the number of people that are out there for that 4th of July weekend. On 4th of July itself, we had about 15 arrests, and then we had about 3 additional felonies of those. Most of those were misdemeanors, but we did have 3 felonies later in the day. The traffic leaving the beaches, again, that was something that's always a challenge for us. We do get complaints about that the next day. I always get phone calls saying, why does it take an hour, hour and a half to get all those people off the beach? Quite simply, it's because there's such a mass exodus at one time. It's almost impossible to get everybody across 2 or 3 bridges in a very short period of time. So people become very frustrated in the traffic We understand that, but there's really only so much we can do to get everything out there and get them moving. We ended up closing First Street like we always do to for pedestrians and bicycles. At some point, it becomes too hazardous to have motor vehicles on First Street mixing with those vehicles and the pedestrians. So the people that are in charge of that little area down there, they'll make the decision if it's necessary to make that closure. They did that, I think, around 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then that stays like that until it's safe after the fireworks, and we can start to get those folks cleared out. It seems like for some reason, we have a lot of missing children that occur during the fireworks displays, as they do on any beach day. But that's one of our biggest concerns at the end of the evening is making sure that we've made those family connections back with all of the missing kids. And we had several in our COPs, and a lot of the officers are doing nothing but trying to track down parents and reconnect them and reunite them with the missing children. I know that we got our last missing child connected back with their family at about 10:30 that night. The fireworks were over at about 9:20, 9:25. Took us about an hour to get all the crowds out of there. We made all those connections, and actually, to that point, we had a pretty great evening, really. It was very successful. We didn't have any severe injuries or anything like that. The 4th of July crowd had really cleared out, and traffic was moving very well off the beach. Pedestrian traffic on 1st Street, 2nd Street was pretty much like it was on a normal weekend. And then, of course, everyone knows what happened later in the evening. We did have a shooting down there. 2 people were shot. There was 1 fatality. A young man was killed. And as much as I know there's a lot of questions about that, I'm going to have to tell you right now, I cannot answer any questions really about that. That's an extremely active investigation. I'm very optimistic on the outcome of the investigation, but I can't really talk about it just yet. At some point in time, I'll be able to do that, but this is not going to be the time to talk about that, unfortunately. We've got to maintain the integrity of that investigation. It's a very unfortunate incident, but I think that the officers responded to that very well. The officers actually did hear the shots that were fired. They were that close. They were right there to provide aid to the individuals that were injured, and we have good progress moving. That's really, like I said, all I can talk about with that particular incident. So I'll pass it on to the Congressman. I know everybody has a lot, but they probably won't hear from you, sir. Thank you.
It's great to be with you this evening, and I would be remiss if I did not start off by saying thank you to so many in this room for your prayers of healing back in January. This is the first time I've had an opportunity to speak to you, and I can tell you that was not the kind of start that I thought I would have with my congressional career. Collapsing on the floor of the cloakroom just off the House floor. But thank you very much for those prayers. I tell you, we serve an awesome God, and I'm here because of that. So thank you for those prayers. I have to tell you, we've accomplished a lot, although if you listen to the media, you might not realize that. I would like to talk about some of the things that we've done that hopefully we have better communication with local, state, and federal law enforcement. And one of those is I was actually able to pass a bill in Homeland Security. I was very fortunate. I worked hard to get onto the Committee on Veteran Affairs, which I was successful in doing, because we have 150,000 veterans in Northeast Florida. And as an old Navy brat myself, having grown up in a Navy family, I wanted to be able to help our veterans. And so I was very thankful to be able to get onto that committee. And then, of course, Homeland Security was a no-brainer. That's in my blood. And so I really was very pleased to get that. Now I'm on Judiciary as well. And so I'm very blessed to have 3 really important committees that will help me work closely with everyone in Northeast Florida. One of the first bills that I was able to get passed was called the Tracer Act. Many of you may not realize, I didn't realize it until I started reading some GAO reports and other things from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, but there are roughly 350 people in prison, in federal prison today, on terrorist-related charges. 350. Now here's the scary part. Between now and 2020, about 115 of those are going to get out. And the way the process works right now, it's kind of the way the state prison system works. They used to just get out, they send them home, and nobody knows where they're going, who they are, when they show up. You could have a terrorist literally released from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, show up at Jax Beach, Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, and the chief has no idea. Folks, I think that is a crazy process. And so now, if we can get this law passed through the Senate, what we will have is mandatory notification when these 350 individuals start getting out, and they will soon. These gentlemen are all going to know if they're coming to their community, so that they can keep. Look, we do it for sex, for child predators, sex predators. We're already doing it for these guys. They pose as great a threat. So that's a very important bill that I think is going to help strengthen our law enforcement. Another bill, well, this wasn't a bill, but this was an initiative. We were able to help the Navy, Bayport Naval Basin, land the Triton program, which is an unmanned aerial vehicle system. And the reason that's important, folks, is as we continue to harden the southern land border, guess what those narco-terrorist groups are going to start doing coming from the south? They're going to go back to the maritime corridors. And recently, the Navy pulled the 2 frigates out. They ended their frigate program, which is going to leave a gap. And our Coast Guard, as you know, the Valiant out here is like 50 years old. So we have some challenges on our maritime corridors. The Triton has the capability to really help us bridge that gap until we can get the Coast Guard recapitalized on their fleet, and there are about 25 cutters that are on their way. So that will be a big help in stopping the flow of drugs into our communities. Look, in fact, I think that's the most important. They talk about a guy coming over the border, in the Rio Grande with 50 pounds of marijuana on his back. Yet we have Coast Guard cutters that go out there and pick up 1.2 tons of cocaine. Folks, that's what we need to focus on. And the Coast Guard needs all the support that we can give them. And I tell you, Admiral Ray is doing a fantastic job in making sure that we shut down those corridors for dope. When I was a young patrolman back in 1974, and we were doing drug interdiction, the drugs were always going north, and the money was going south in Florida. The drugs were going north, and the money was going south because the drugs were coming in through the ports. Now it's been reversed. The drugs flow south, the money flows north. And it's coming through Brownsville and other areas on our southern border. We need to maintain that seawall. There was a lot of talk about cutting the Coast Guard, believe it or not, in next year's budget. I fought that severely because, and my point was this: look, you're gonna weaken the seawall to strengthen the land wall. That doesn't make sense. And so that got dropped, and the Coast Guard is fully funded, and we're capitalizing that fleet. So that's a good thing too. And I will leave it at that. But I want to throw a challenge out to my good friend Chief Bruce Thomason. I want to write a book with you. You have to come to Washington D.C., buddy, because I'm going to tell you. And we'll title the book something like "How Do Arcane Rules Get in the Way of Good Legislation?" I'm telling you, it's amazing. It is amazing. So, anyway, Bruce, it's great to see you. But listen, thank you all very much, and I look forward to your questions. God bless.
As I said before, we'll go ahead and open the floor for questions, and if you could keep your questions as short as possible so we can get as many questions in as possible. So show of hands, who would like to ask? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rutherford, my name is Chris Manson. I'm one of your constituents in Neptune Beach. I've been tracking your voting record and your activity in Congress through government sources. And I must say I am disappointed at an emerging pattern. With your background in law enforcement, I was hopeful that as a congressman, your experience in working with the public's concerns and needs would sensitize you to the other factors besides law enforcement that contribute to the community's safety and well-being, such as clean air, clean water, no fracking on Florida coastlines, quality public education, whose budget hasn't been gutted to the benefit of for-profit charter schools, and health care for all. So I ask you now respectfully if you would consider standing with the growing number of Republicans in Congress that are willing to put the people before a party agenda. Would you consider?
Yes, question, because I led the letter in opposition to President Trump's drill executive order in the Atlantic. I'm adamantly opposed to that. And look, even the testing, we know that that hurts fisheries. And right now, how many red snapper fishers in there? Look, we can't fish for red snapper now because they say the stock is down. Well, that's why I'm opposed to this seismic testing. It will continue to keep those stocks down, which, you know, so I'm adamantly opposed to that. And on the record, in fact, I led the Florida delegation in that initiative. So, look, I am very much in favor of protecting our resources. I'm a sportsman. I love, you know, taking care of our wildlife and our refugee areas. But, you know, sometimes there's laws that, you know, and regulations that folks try to pass that go above and beyond what I think is reasonable. But certainly, drilling off our Atlantic coast is not acceptable.
For Congressman Rutherford, you're going to be popular tonight. I appreciate your leadership on the VA committee. It's awesome. What do you think the impact of this new $26 million VA clinic is going to be on our veterans here in Jacksonville?
Yeah, thank you, Rory. We just got authorization for that new facility that's going to replace the South Point and the University Boulevard clinics and actually move into our own facility. I think that's going to help drive down our wait times. We also just extended the choice program, which, and I know some of the VSOs are concerned about, well, are we trying to privatize VA? And that's not the goal. That's not the goal at all. But the goal is to make sure that these men and women that have put it all on the line for this country, when they come back and they need medical service, that they don't have to wait 30 days to see a doctor. That they don't have to drive 50 to 100 miles past 2 or 3 other hospitals to get to a VA clinic to get the care, not that they need, not only that they need, but also that they deserve. And so we're working hard on that. I think it's going to help us cut down those wait times and also make it much more convenient for those, you know, not just here, but in rural areas to get the treatment that they need. Thank you.
Jim?
Congressman Stacy, a lot of us here at the beach use the clinic at South Point because it's easy to get to on JTV. Since they're closing South Point and University, it would be a swell idea if the VA picked a site here on the east side.
Yeah, listen, I think the location of it is going to be critically important. You know, I'm not sure why we built Jefferson Street where we built Jefferson Street. You know, but I think we need to put it where most of the veterans are at and close to them. And so that's an issue that will come up. You know, now we only have authorization, we don't have funding yet, so we still have to get back and get the funding. But that is something that we're certainly going to involve the community in. Where should this go?
Right next to my house.
There's 149,909, yeah.
Chief Thompson.
Chief Duke, put you on the spot, actually any of the three of you, but can you just address for the group the issues that your departments are finding with recruitment and retention of officers and the current climate involving police and communities across the country?
Well, from my perspective, and I'm only going to speak for myself here, but there's a couple of issues that are at hand here. First of all, through the media and the media portrayal of law enforcement over the past few years, it's made it, quite honestly, an unpopular profession to want to go into. I think back to when I went into it, and I was 19 when I became a policeman. But it was a respectable profession, and I came from a law enforcement family. I was brought up that way. But the media portrays, in many cases, law enforcement officers as unprofessional. They talk about the brutality all the time, things like that. What I always say when people talk about that part of law enforcement is that as a police chief, and I'm a police chief in a medium-sized agency in this country, nobody wants those bad apples gone more than I do because of the damage that those kinds of individuals do to the entire profession. So we have to get past that it's not an honorable profession, because it certainly is. People that do this job, they do it for the right reasons. They do it because they care about their community and they care about people. The media doesn't portray it that way for young police officers, so it's not something that they might want to go with. When they're looking at that line, which line do I get into for professional service, they might lean in the direction of the fire department or something in those situations, because the public, often the officers feel they don't have the support from the public. That's starting to swing back the other way now again, so that's a very positive thing. The other aspect of it is that we face huge challenges out here at the beach, realistically right now, because of the situation that's occurred in Jacksonville and the most recent changes to their payroll system and to their pensions there. Because over the next 3 years, they're getting very substantial raises down in Jacksonville. And it makes it very competitive, difficult for us to want to recruit young individuals that they look at, well, the starting pay here is X and the starting pay over there is going to be considerably higher. Why would I want to go to Jacksonville Beach, or why would I want to go to Atlantic or Neptune Beach? So although our tax bases are much smaller, our problems are very different than the ones that are faced in Jacksonville, we have to make ourselves attractive in a very, very competitive market to find those police officers, those people that want to be police officers, to want to come to Jacksonville Beach or Atlantic Beach or Neptune Beach over the large agencies like Jacksonville, St. Johns County. There are a lot of sheriff's offices that are bigger than we are, and quite honestly, in a lot of situations, they may have more aspects of the job. They may have helicopters and dive units and more dogs than we do, and those kinds of things. So we have to stay competitive, though, and we have to have a competitive pension package. We have to have a competitive pay package. We also have to look at our workload. One of the things in Jacksonville Beach that we're faced with is we tend to work our officers really, really hard from March through the end of the summer. A lot of overtime, a lot of all the holidays, obviously, the special events. All these things are very taxing. But our community is a community of about 23,000. That's what our tax base is. but we have an influx of visitors, and we're the playground for a metropolitan area of about 1 million people. So we have to keep up with that level of call for service. You look at what other agencies that have 67 officers in the state might have for calls for service, and then you look at where we're at. We're very high. We have right at about 95,000 officer responses each year in Jacksonville Beach. Just over the 4th of July weekend, we had 1,500 calls for service. That's a lot for 67 officers. And I don't handle that many calls for service as the police chief. The command staff doesn't handle that. That's handled by a much smaller group of officers. So it's very, very busy. They're not handling that number individually in some of the other areas. So they work harder out here. They get paid a little bit less right now. And so what we have to do is we have to find ways to stay competitive in how we're going to attract and retain those long-term officers. Commander Smith brought some statistics to me the other day. In Jacksonville Beach, in 10 years, we have hired 90 police officers. There's only 67 of us now in the agency. There are a handful that have been there for a long time, and there are a lot more that we have turnover constantly. So we've got to try to get that under control, but we have to be competitive with other law enforcement agencies. So that's, from my perspective, that's where we need to look and we need to go. We need to keep moving in that direction. So I'll pass it on to maybe others. I have anything to say.
Just have one thing, Chief, just I'll be real brief, but as Chief Dooley was saying, when you hire an officer, you make the job offer. That doesn't mean they're coming to work and the next day they're out there with a badge and a gun enforcing the law. It's a huge expense for the agency. 14 work cycles of training. You know, the overtime, especially in a small agency like Neptune Beach, the overtime you're paying out when that officer's, when you're down a spot or two. So, you know, that all that adds up into, you know, just in the long run, if you keep your pay up, keep your benefits up, I feel the city benefits in the long run of retaining an officer other than constantly hiring, because it is very expensive. It's very time consuming. My commanders, Key and Snyder here. You know, we got 3 openings right now in an 18 officer department. And so, you know, a lot of time and effort is going into getting our hiring process underway, getting the officers hired, getting them trained. Unfortunately, we had 2. They went through the entire hiring process, 14 weeks of training. One of them backed up, the other one didn't make it. So we're right back to, you know, and you can't settle for second best. You know, those days are gone forever. But, you know, then we start the whole process back over. And like I said, it is very manpower intensive, and it is very expensive for, you know, smaller agencies.
Chief Dooley, I live in Jacksonville Beach. What is the appetite for reducing the burden on your police force by having fireworks on the 4th of July, which ramps up the activity,
Sure.
and so many events that bring in so many people and create that burden? It may not be your call. I'd be curious as to what's the process for changing that, because as a resident of the beach, it becomes very unlivable for most of the tourist season.
And you're right on a lot of counts there. The first one is it's not my call. No, seriously, what we try to do is you know, we try to manage the events best possible way that we can. Our job is not to decide what events we're going to have in Jacksonville Beach. My job as a police chief is to say, if you're going to have this event, these are the things that I need to do to make that event the most safe event that I can make sure that it is for our residents and our visitors. There are a lot of special events that we do at Jacksonville Beach that really don't have a lot of stress or tax on the police department. You know, you see a lot of the beach runs and those kinds of things. Those things really don't tax the residents or the police department for that matter. We do have a lot of other larger scale events. The beach in and of itself is a huge draw. And one of the things that we've seen over the past few years is we have a tremendous influx of more visitors coming in just to go to the beach itself. And that's what's affected a lot of the parking on the residential areas more so than just in the downtown area. So there's a lot of different aspects of this at work. Of course, the special events that we have, we're limiting those to one per month in the summer, or in the summer months, in the summer months. Try to limit the number of days that those events go on to kind of scale back how much law enforcement we're having to put out all the time. But, and I think we're moving in the right direction with that. Obviously, I would like to see less. But, my job as a police chief isn't necessarily to decide how many events we're going to have. Mine is to make sure that when we have them, I make them as safe as possible. So, our elected officials are all here, so make those decisions. No offense.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Peter Gibson, Atlantic Beach. We're fortunate to have 3 members of local law enforcement, as well as somebody with oversight for national law enforcement, as well as a long career in local, not media, local, other side of the kitchen. And following up partially on Chief Dooley's comment about media and perception, I'd like to get the reaction of each of you to President Trump's recent comments exhorting the police to treat suspects more roughly. I see the comments from the White House and other senior officials that he was probably just joking, but in terms of media, that's a soundbite, and having witnessed police action at Cunningham Park on April 8th, I find it increasingly difficult to give the benefit of the doubt to the police and write it off to a few bad apples. So just, again, your reaction, however brief, to the President's comments. Thank you.
Well, I think we all agree that those sentiments are not held by any professional law enforcement officers in this room, and none of them at the beaches. Certainly, by all means, we want our officers to be safe. They do a very difficult job under very difficult circumstances in very compressed, short time frames to make the decisions. A lot of what we see come out in the media is that really a small minority. The number of times our officers engage with citizens over the course of the year, we all do use of force reviews at the end of the year. Those numbers are fractional, and the times that we engage with citizens over the course of an entire year that we actually have to use force, they're minuscule. And those are all public record. I would openly say that you can come to Atlantic Beach and request that use of force report, our annual reviews for this year and years in the past, and you can see what those numbers are for yourself. So the things that get into the media really do have a huge impact on all of us because we are so sensitized in our society. We are information driven, and that's what we are drawn to. And just as an aside, Chief Dooley talked about what the media's impact is on our ability to recruit. I talked to a counterpart down in Central Florida, and one of the things we were talking about was budget, recruiting, and retention. And his comment to me was that after the unfortunate Pulse incident, the recruiting for the Orlando Police Departments went through the roof. They had hundreds and hundreds of applicants wanting to be a part of that agency because it came out such as a positive response for what happened with Orlando PD and how they responded, and how the city of Orlando responded to that incident. They found themselves with a multitude of applicants who wanted to be part of that agency. And that, again, was, I believe, largely in part media-driven. They did a great job, but it was publicized for them by the media, and likewise the fire department. So we look at those small number of incidences that get replayed on social media and, of course, the network news, and that has an impact on all of us. But again, if you will go back and do some research into what all the agencies here do to make sure that we give the people a very, very high standard in our professionalism and the times we don't use force and engage the citizens, go back and ask for those reports and take a look at them and see what they say over the course of a year that we really do with our officers and when we interact with the public. I think you'll find that that number we're concerned about, justifiably so, is very small, and we work to correct those things immediately if we see any instance at all of inappropriate behavior by our officers. But have some consideration for the things that you can relate to maybe when things happen so quickly in front of you that you're startled by or frightened by, and have to make a really cognizant decision on how to react to that and not just be startled by it, but make some crucial decisions. It's tough. Just think about the cat that runs in front of you when you have to step on the brakes of your car, or the kid who's chasing the ball. I mean, all you can do is just react sometimes, and we're asking officers to make some very hard decisions about 2 and 3 and 4 steps ahead in that instant where they just have to react and stop something bad from happening, maybe to them or someone else. So it's a difficult job under difficult circumstances, but again, go back and look at the large numbers. I think you'll be impressed.
I just wanted to mention that there's, between the 4 officers here, I know there's probably 130 years of law enforcement experience here. And I know the Congressman started in the 70s, the rest of us started in the 80s. The training that is developed and the accountability is nowhere near what it used to be. When I started, we had 8 officers in Neptune Beach. Here's your badge, your gun, and your billy club. Go get them. And that was it. You know, that was it. But now, you know, our officers are highly trained. Highly trained. I know everybody in this room, the sheriff, Congressman can speak for Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, that it's just evolved so much, and the accountability is definitely there, as Chief Gwillow was saying. So we have evolved, and same thing, you know, our public records are open for scrutiny at any time in the Neptune Beach Police Department. So we have, there's been a lot of changes, and I know they're going to continue. And we have different types of different uses. We have tasers and pepper spray, you know, instead of hands-on, and those have been a great help for us too.
The only thing that I would add is that Jacksonville Beach is an accredited agency. We're nationally accredited. We have been for 23 years now. We're about to go into our 7th reaccreditation process. You know, we're very proud of that. We're proud of our processes. We're proud of the fact that we do review force, scrutinize that. And what can we take away from every incident? Is there a way we could have done something better? Could it have been avoided? All those kinds of things. And that's one of the things that the accreditation process does. It continuously makes us look inward to see how we can continually improve. The other part of that, and I'm going to comment, maybe I shouldn't on the President's comment, but as a professional law enforcement officer, I don't appreciate those kinds of comments, because whether he's a president or not, I think that as a policeman, a young officer is actually going to take and believe to be acceptable. To me, it's not acceptable. It never has been in my career. So I feel we need an answer for that, and that's my position on it. So,
Thank you, Chief. Listen, I spent 41 years in law enforcement, and I probably spent most of that in leadership, obviously toward the end, fighting that kind of attitude. And so I don't appreciate it either. But let me say this, and Chief Dooley talked about this briefly, but let me tell you, these accreditation standards, you know, I was very, very proud as Sheriff of Duval County that we have what is known as the Triple Crown of accreditation. We were CALEA certified that's the Commission on Law Enforcement Accreditation. We were ACA, the American Corrections Association, certified our jails, and NCCHC, which was the National Commission on Corrections Healthcare. Even our jail medical was accredited. Now, in that Triple Crown, there were literally probably don't hold me to this number, but it's going to be pretty close, over 1,000 standards that we had to meet. Some of those dealt with what percentage of use of force did you use, not just on the street, but within our Department of Corrections. And we had to answer those. And so it's a very good process. And let me tell you, it's not a simple thing that the chief has achieved that accreditation. That is a major, major milestone for any law enforcement agency. But I want to go back and mention one other thing too, because I think sometimes this impacts. We talked a little bit about training in the professionalism within the law enforcement ranks. Let me tell you another thing that I think hurts law enforcement performance, and that is when you start getting to numbers of officers where, you know, the population has outgrown the percentage of officers that you have in the population, and they are literally running from call to call to call to call, with no time in between to decompress, and they go from one bad call to another, one bad call to another. And no time to decompress, I'm telling you, that's a recipe for disaster. We have to be sure that we are maintaining adequate numbers of officers to safely protect our communities. And officer ratios are incredibly important. In Jacksonville, in 2011, we had 1,750 police and we had 92 community service officers. In 2011, Jacksonville had the lowest murder numbers they'd had since 1971. And folks, I'm talking about raw numbers, not percentages of population. Raw numbers. We had fewer murders in 2011 than we had in 1971. We had fewer violent crimes in raw numbers in 2011 than we had in 1971. Now, well, here's what happened. Good question. Which is why I was so heavily supportive of Mayor Curry. Because the previous mayor cut 147 police officers. Cut all 92 CSOs. Folks, we got under that number that you could safely protect the community with. That was the problem. And that's why supporting these agencies and being sure that they have the proper number of officers to protect you is critical, not only for their safety, but for the safety of the community. Thank you for that question.
Can I just add, I'd just like to add one thing to the accreditation part of this. There's over 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States. Of those 18,000, only 635 are nationally accredited. When you go through the process, there's about 480 standards that you have to meet. They're not flexible on those standards. So it's not an easy process, like the Congressman was saying. And it's something that we are extremely proud of.
Only 31 have a triple crown.
Yes, sir.
My name's Alan Halpern. I live in Atlantic Beach. I'd like to change the subject for Congressman Rutherford. Everyone in this room, I'm sure, is aware of the fiasco around healthcare legislation that's been going on. And I'm a physician in Jacksonville, and I was very disturbed by the process that occurred. No one seemed to know what they were voting for. They just wanted to vote for something. I also was disturbed by many of the parts of that bill that cut Medicaid unmercifully. Even President Trump said that it was a mean bill. I have read now that there's a group of people who, Democrats and Republicans, who want to work together in a bipartisan way. So I'd like to ask you, is that something that you support? Also, I and a number of citizens in Duval County have been wanting to discuss with you in an open forum our views on this important subject. I'm not aware that you have had any public meetings to allow this to happen. So I'd just like to get your comments on that.
I'm here now. Number two, this goes back to the book that I'd like Bruce to write with me, which is why do we let these arcane rules get in the way of good legislation? Look, I was adamantly opposed to the House passing the health care bill the way we did. What we did was we broke it up.
But you voted no.
You know, folks asked, you know, look, why didn't we pass one bill that addresses all of health care? Why didn't we break it up into 3 pieces? And the reason we did that is because of the 60-vote cloture rule in the Senate. Because the first phase of the 3-phase bill is reconciliation, the budgetary aspects of ACA. They wanted to rip the financial guts out of it. And they can do that with reconciliation, which only requires, reconciliation bills only require 51 votes in the Senate. They thought we could pass 51 votes in the Senate. They were sure they weren't going to get 60. Okay, so if that bill includes anything about policy, regulation, or increases the budget, the parliamentarian kicks it out, and you cannot pass it through reconciliation. It has to go through the 60-vote cloture rule to stop the filibuster. Well, here's the thing. When we busted it up into 3 pieces, and then the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, scores that bill. And they say, well, look, 22, 23 million people are going to lose their insurance, their premiums are going to go up, all these horrible outcomes. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's not the whole process. That's just phase 1 of 3 phases. And I knew this was going to happen. It's a messaging nightmare that the House created because we worried about what was going to happen in the Senate with their 60 votes. We should have never broken that up. We should have kept it in one ball so that CBO could score it, show that premiums were going down, show that we were going to have better access to care, that it was going to be cheaper for people, not only in their premiums, but also in their deductions. They would have much better care and a much easier message. And then send it to the Senate, and if the Senate can't get 60 votes, that's their problem. But instead, we worry about the 60-vote rule in the House. We split it up and create a messaging nightmare. The CBO is absolutely wrong. Well, they're correct on scoring phase 1, but they didn't score the regulatory piece, and they didn't score the legislative piece, because it's not before them yet. And so, look, this is a very tough issue, but you know, I think we approached it wrong. I think we should have. In fact, I had this conversation with Paul Ryan the first time we pulled it back, and I told him, I said, look, I said, Paul, I'm a little upset. I said, you know, when I was sheriff, I'd tell my men and women to take that hill, and they came together and they would take that hill. In fact, Paul, they would take a bullet to take that hill. Not because of me, but because they believed in something bigger than themselves. I said, but up here, you say take the hill. And they're like, no, I'm going to take this hill over here. Or I'm going to wait until the hills go away. Well, we don't have that option. Folks, there were actually people who said, look, let's just let ACA implode. It's imploding on its own. Let's just let it go. And I'm like, you really want to let the city burn down so we can rebuild it? This is people's lives. We don't have that luxury. We've got to fix this thing, and it's not going to be an easy process.
Well, do you support the bipartisan effort or not?
Oh, I absolutely support a bipartisan effort. Absolutely. Al Lawson from 5th Congressional District, great friend of mine. He said, John, I mentioned in our conference, and this is a two-way street here. He said, I mentioned in our conference that we need to work with you guys to make sure that AHCA includes those items that we think are really important and we want to keep out of ACA. He said, John, they almost took my head off. Let me tell you, go look at the Washington Post. They did an amazing study. The Washington Post did a study. They spatially mapped voting patterns, left and right, red and blue, from 1949 to 2011. And folks, in 1949, it looked like one big purple dot. In 2011, you know what it looked like? A big red dot and a big blue dot. Nobody voted across party lines. Nobody. And I think the reason is, if you look a few years previous to that, is when they threw out the earmarks. Now, we had earmarks in this country for over 200 years, and it worked. But then we had some guys that did some bad things with what they called airdrops. Really, it wasn't earmarks, it was airdrops in the conference process.
And citizens.
And they built, they built the bridge to nowhere, right? But what did we call the Dames Point when it was built here? Bridge to nowhere. You think it's a bridge to nowhere now? What about JTB? JTB was a road to nowhere, right? Remember that? Now it's a parking lot every morning and every evening. Folks, those weren't bridges to nowhere or roads to nowhere. They were roads and bridges to the future. We need to get back to district-driven funding because what that will do is create the synergy for that bipartisanship. That's what we need to get back to. And that's why we have these arcane rules that, I jokingly told Bruce we need to write a book about it. Why they cling to these arcane rules that keep us from doing good things for the public. I don't get it. So we got to continue to work on changing those things.
All right, one more question because we're at 8 o'clock, so Martha?
I just have a question since you guys are here. My name is Martha Backer. I live in Jacksonville Beach, but I'm from Miami, and I appreciate the differences that I have up here. But I did live here when it was the road to nowhere. Okay, but the question has to do with gun safety. Safety, not controls. I want to know if there's a possibility that there can be some national gun safety rules to keep something from having a 2-year-old pick up a gun and kill somebody.
Look, I absolutely think that every gun owner has an individual responsibility to safely store and administratively handle their weapons. My children grew up in a household full of guns. They're all over now. Most of mine are in my safe, but not all of them because I want immediate access to some. But what I did was my children shot guns their whole lives. There was no mystery. They didn't have to pick up a gun to see what it felt like or looked like or anything. They knew. They had that experience with it. So I think that's more of where we want to go with gun safety. I think teaching gun safety courses, the NRA and Eddie Eagle, I think ought to be taught in all of our schools because it's all about gun safety. And I would also like to see a national reciprocity so that Floridians who have a concealed weapons permit can carry that gun anywhere they go in this country. My constitutional rights do not end at the Florida state line. They follow me wherever I go, and I should be able to carry wherever I go, as long as I meet the requirements. I'll leave it up to you.
The only other thing I might add is right now, one thing that's before the Florida legislature, and they're going to continue to look at this, I think, until they pass it. And I'm going to stand up and tell you right now, this might be very unpopular, but I'm opposed to it, and that's the open carry law in Florida. The reason I'm opposed to it is from a very personal level, as a police chief in a community that I don't think it would benefit our citizens if there was an open carry law in Florida right now. Because in Jacksonville Beach, I'm concerned with the problems that possibly could bring. People with concealed weapons, very often, we know there are people carrying concealed weapons everywhere now. But I think when we go from that concealed portion to an open carry, I think it's a game changer. And especially with some of the people that we deal with, I think that it's going to create problems for us. So the one thing that I would ask you is to please pay attention to what's going on right now in the Florida legislature with the open carry law. There is a big push for it. It's probably, I feel, going to pass in the next few years. I don't know which session it's going to pass, but I feel it will. But I think that it's important that you let your state legislators please know your feelings on that matter, whether you're opposed or whether you're for the concealed carry or open carry. And that's been a hot topic with both the Florida Sheriff's Association and also the Florida Chiefs Association. There have been, Sheriff Williams is one of the people, as I'm one of the people in the Chiefs Association, that is in the minority, and and opposed to an open carry. Sheriff Williams is for the same reason. So, and I don't mean to speak for Sheriff Williams, but I respect his position, obviously. I don't mean to make this a political topic, but I don't know if anybody else wanted to talk about it at all.
No, I agree.
That's a big concern.
Congressman, but ma'am, going on your question, accountability for the gun owner is what it comes down to. You know, God forbid something like that happens, but hold the owner of the gun accountable to that, and that will send a clear message. If you're going to have that gun in your house or your possession, you will be held accountable.
I agree with the Chief Healy and Chief Mike.
Real quick, let me just remind you that Beaches Watch is having the Atlantic Beach Candidate Forum on Thursday, August 10th at 7 p.m. at the Atlantic Beach Elementary School. And also our next meeting is Wednesday, September 6th, here in the community room at 7 o'clock, and it's about the opioid crisis at the beaches. And then please join me in thanking our guest speakers tonight, Interim Chief Vic Galillo, and Deputy Beach Police Chief Richard Pike, Jacksonville Beach Police Chief Pat Dooley, and Congressman Rutherford. So one last request, if you're sitting on a seat and you're able-bodied, please pick up your seat and take it over to this wall over here so that will help us stack the chairs up. Thank you so much and have a good night.